life is going great. Until one day, you're out of work. No matter how it happened, you need to find a new job. Pronto. The problem is, no one ever taught you how to navigate the ever-shifting and ever-changing wasteland of applying for a job in the modern market. I'm Rob Conlon, and here on Recruiting Hell, I help people get jobs. I'm on a mission to help educate 10,000 job seekers on the best ways to get hired in the modern job market. No matter your field, this show is designed to help you level up your job hunting game and escape the many circles of recruiting hell. Step into my studio and let's get you the hell out of here. This episode of Recruiting Hell is generously supported by our friends at CoinList, one of the fastest growing companies in the cryptocurrency space. CoinList is hiring. Visit www.coinlist.co/jobs to apply. Tell them Rob sent you. Hello, and welcome to Recruiting Hell. I'm your host, Rob Conlon. 2020 and 2021 have been years of massive change and massive growth for many people. For myself, I've found myself in a new position, recently promoted at that new position, and wrangling my own personal brand and side hustle via this show. I'm busier than I've ever been, and I couldn't be happier. Now, lest you think I've gone to the dark side and will be chanting for you to follow in my footsteps and push it to the limit, that's not a fit for everyone, and it's not the purpose or mission of this show. However, what I will be sharing today is as much a wake-up call as it is an invitation to step up your job hunting game with additional efforts. Efforts I am willing to help you support. The reality of the world is that nothing is free. And as much as we'd like things to be provided for us and live in a post-scarcity society like Star Trek, if we want to have a roof over our heads, food to eat, a car to drive, and the ability to purchase the things that we want and need for ourselves and our families, the reality is that we live in a society where we very likely need to work for those wonderful things that we call dollars so that we can spend them. The world is changing faster than ever, and with remote work and the potential for shorter work weeks to change the landscape of what constitutes a career, there's a lot that can be learned from recent times to be applicable to your job hunt. Today, we're going to go over the top 5 most impactful things I've learned from the past year and how they've applied to both my job hunt and new career, as well as making sure that you have the resources to apply these lessons I learned to your own job hunt. Let's jump in. Number 5. Remote work is here to stay. No matter what companies say and no matter how hard bosses demand that their people come in, remote work is likely going to be a huge part of how the world does business going forward. We may never again see the crazy traffic jams of 2019 and before, as even urban planners have seen traffic patterns change in most cities. And in turn, they're looking to change how our freeway systems operate, which, when you think about it, is a pretty permanent thing. Building a 6 to 10 lane road that lasts 15 to 30 years is no small investment. Now, I used to be a major anti-remote work proponent, and a lot of that stemmed from a bad experience I had with a remote direct report earlier in my career. If I look back at that experience, had I worked harder to set expectations for that person and explain more about how I'd be evaluating them, I think I'd have had a different experience. It's okay to fail in this regard, and I took that lesson forward to 2020 with me. So what you should be taking away from this, my dear listener, is that if you're just looking at jobs that have you commuting to a building every day in the city, the opportunities you could be missing, especially if your new job is willing to support your home office remodel, may be life-changing. I would encourage you that even if you're a big fan of being in the office, that you consider a remote position. Don't knock it till you try it. And this is coming from a guy who advised his boss at one point in time to, quote, keep everyone in the office. Boy, was I wrong. Number 4. The importance of using social media to reach out about what you're doing and what you need from other people. This one took me a while to learn, mostly because I had come from a sales background and it always appeared that everyone was selling something and wanted compensation for it. Now, don't get me wrong, you should not be walking around life or social media demanding handouts and free stuff like some horrible, I must see the manager, Karen. Cultivating and building relationships with the people that are in the social space will get you pitched, But if you can bring value to them by helping to interact with and boost their posts by engaging, they will often see you as something worth investing in. Invite them to coffee, whether it's in person or virtually. Ask them how you can help them. Is there a project they're doing that you have some knowledge about? Share it. If you don't have that knowledge and it's not something like, do you know heart surgery? Offer to go find that knowledge for them. We're very hesitant to tell you to give away your time and talent for free here on Recruiting Hell, but every business knows you have to sometimes make an investment in order to see profits. Every business starts that way, whether it was Walmart 70 years ago or my own little business last year. The best part is, when you're interacting with folks on social media, the investment isn't financial, it's time. And when you're out of work, that's something you have plenty of. Now, spending the glut of time you have wisely, both on recharging yourself and finding your next adventure, is huge, but you have to make time for it. Dedicating time to work on your network daily by reaching out to others on social media is the number one thing you can do to start the fire for your job hunt. But it's not the only thing you can or should do. Think of it this way. If you were a salesperson and all you did was gather leads, but you never called them, emailed them, gave them any knowledge about who you are or what you and your company does, you'd be earning pretty much no money because you'd make no sales. Part of what I learned in 2020 and 2021 is that if you want to make the most of your time when you're unemployed, you need to build relationships with people who can potentially hire you or potentially connect you with the person who will hire you. The more you put yourself out there to folks and interact with them face-to-face, online, and in other mediums, the more you build your familiarity with them. Familiarity takes time and a ton of contacts. The other day, I gave a call to someone who I appreciate and admire as a fellow podcaster. You've heard me talk about him on this show before. His name is Ted Carew, and he runs a show called Ted Speaks, and this show is about keeping folks safe on the job site with OSHA compliance and other things that make sure people don't, get hurt or die at work. Ted and I initially met through a small podcasting community, which I unfortunately no longer visit. However, he taught me something really useful that I'm going to teach and tell you right now. Keeping up a relationship is up to you. Now, the last time I spoke to Ted was about 3 months ago before I wrote this episode. And yesterday, as I was writing it, I realized how much time had passed and that it had been so long since I had nurtured the relationship with Ted and offered to see how I could help his show. I'm not selling Ted anything. I'm bonding with Ted over a shared experience in podcasting and asking how I can serve him. Ted didn't pick up my call that day when I gave him a ring, but I can bet you he's going to be giving me a jingle as very soon as he's able, as we've both invested time in the relationship. Ted's not only a great guy, but I also value the relationship with him. While it didn't directly get me hired, it was still a part of the basis of getting things moving in the direction I wanted to go. I'm continuing to put my efforts into my relationship with Ted, and I would encourage you that when you find your Teds in your networking efforts, that even after you found a new position, keep up with them and don't only ask how you can use your new opportunity to help them, but also build that relationship further with someone who may even play a bigger role in your next advancement someday. Number 3, not everyone wants to or should move upwards. Everyone in the world works and makes efforts for their family for different reasons. Some of us just want that bill payer job. Some of us want to change the world. Whichever you want doesn't matter, so long as you're sufficiently fulfilled. Fulfillment can come in many ways, and that is 100% up to you. I realized a long time ago that I should never be a traditional CEO. Everyone these days talks about being your own boss, owning a company, be the CEO. But not everyone realizes that not every person is cut out to be a true blue CEO. And that's okay. But when you look at it, perhaps the emotional intelligence value of knowing what role you do fit in is far more valuable. For example, you may be a poor CEO, but when it comes to leading a customer service team, you're second to none. Perhaps you're the world's greatest data analyst and you see patterns no one else does. Knowing when to not be number 1 and be number 7 or number 32 or number 1528 in a company hierarchy is a huge skill to develop. If we look at myself, I am not a visionary compared to some of the CEOs I've met. I would like to take the project that I am CEO of, this podcast, to the greatest heights that I absolutely can. Yes, I definitely want to do that. But it's likely I won't ever become a top 10 podcast. And that's okay. Understanding where I and my show fit in the world is huge. And it's even more important when it comes to your job and where you fit in the world. My wife sent me an image as I was actually writing this, and I thought it would be pretty pertinent for this show. Little did she know that when she texted me, "Hey, would this help your show?" that I'd actually be using it basically immediately. The image had a quote on it that said, quote, "I think part of the issue is people assuming that everyone must want to move upward. Like that's the next logical step for a person to want to move up the chain, from worker to manager to district manager, and eventually to owner. But I always think of growth like plants. Aspens grow tall to reach the sun, for sure. But dandelions grow deep, understanding themselves fully, so that if some misguided fool tries to uproot them, they'd have to try damn hard. And then there's thyme and other creeping plants which spread themselves out so much that if you chop a part of it off, it roots in whatever dirt it can find. It's okay to not have lofty dreams. You know what kind of plant you are better than anyone else." Big credit not only to my wife, but also a user named Libra Ford via Pinterest, I believe. Wow. I really wish I would have read that in April 2020. If you don't want to go for a dream job, that's fine. Find what makes you thrive and grow. Just like the various plants that were described in that quote, you know what you want out of life, and the sooner you figure that out and can devote all of your time and efforts to pursuing that, the sooner you'll see real change. Hey listeners, we're going to take a quick break here for some of the business side of running a podcast. These sponsors not only believe in this show, but they may have a product, service, or even an open position that can help you end your job hunt. Give them a listen and drop by their websites in thanks for their help in supporting this show and your work search. Hey folks, it's Rob. A lot of times on this show, we talk about the power of networking to find a job. Well, networking is exactly how we wound up partnering with our newest sponsor, CoinList. So you're asking yourself right now, Rob, what is CoinList? Well, CoinList is a San Francisco and New York City-based technology company that provides investors with access to the most cutting-edge investment opportunities in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. On CoinList, investors can access the best new crypto tokens before they list on other crypto exchanges, and it pays to be early in crypto. Now, right now, they have two special offers for listeners of Recruiting Hell. The first, as a Recruiting Hell listener, you'll earn $10 of Bitcoin when you create an account and trade at least $100 worth of assets on the CoinList trading platform. That's right, you heard me, free Bitcoin. Just visit www.coinlist.co/recruitinghell to get started. The second is something that could end your time in recruiting hell altogether. CoinList is hiring. You heard me right. CoinList could be your next great opportunity for work. Excited about cryptocurrency? Got a passion for technology? Find CoinList's open positions today at coinlist.co/jobs. That's coinlist.co/jobs. And when you do, be sure to tell them Rob sent you. We're back. A big thank you to our sponsors for their offerings, as well as you for considering them. On with the show. Number 2. The best job market isn't the one you see, it's the one you make. Now, this one took me forever to realize that the best job market is not the one that's easily seen in front of your face on job boards and in advertisements. The best job market is the one that you make, and that takes time and effort. A lot of the pieces of making your own job market aren't readily apparent at first. The relationship takes time to grow. The interaction online and in person needs to happen. This isn't something you can just set up overnight. And I think that's one of the issues we face today as job seekers. We live in such an immediate gratification society that when something like a job hunt takes months, which, by the way, is a long time, we get overly anxious, and it discourages us because of the way that we've built our society to be instant gratification based. Building your own job market and opportunities that come with that takes a lot of time. You can't rush it because there are really no shortcuts. It's all about building relationships with people. Buckling down and hitting the job boards works to a point, but even if you're an introvert, getting out and talking to people via LinkedIn, personal meetings, and a whole lot more will do you infinitely better when it comes to building the foundations of your next job opportunity. So who do you talk to? Well, David Perry a few weeks ago mentioned the recently departed. Those are definitely a set of people you should go looking for. I believe they are in episode 50 if you want to go take a listen to that after this. But what if you're really new to this? Just created a LinkedIn account and have never done this before? Start participating. Get those first few connections out of people you know and that you know are active on the platform. Interact with them. Make the bonds. Interact with the people they know. Contribute to the conversation in a meaningful and well thought out way. It's not enough to just click like or celebrate or support or insightful or whatever it might be. It's about having to actually do that human type conversation and interaction through the platform that's going to give you a leg up that the others don't have and help you create your own job market. We've spent nearly 3 whole episodes of this show on LinkedIn. We're not going to go too much more into depth on it right now, but using it to create and look for opportunities that you need to apply to new jobs for is absolutely critical. Number 1, if you want to be taken seriously as an applicant, create. This is a tough one for me to say, but it's honestly one of the most impactful things I did for my own job hunt and that I learned in 2020, 2021. If you want to be taken seriously as an applicant, create. I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this, but the truth is that we live in a world where those that create succeed. If you're wanting to find a new role, even at the entry level, creating and showing what you've created to a prospective employer is critical today. Way back in episode 3 of this show, we talked about selling yourself. Companies and employers are the buyers. We are, unfortunately, products for them to consider acquiring. That's a really sad way to put it, considering the mission of this show, but it's probably one of the truest statements out there. Knowing that you are selling yourself and having the ability and the drive to create something that can entice someone to look into buying you is probably the single biggest obstacle that you have to overcome in the job hunting game. It's a very grim and unfair reality that we are commodities on a market, but to call it anything else would be disingenuous. The thing that differentiates folks these days is what they advertise themselves with, their brand. Now, your brand may be small and personal. It might just simply be who you are. Maybe it's just your name. Jess, Tom, Jamie, Jamar, but it's who you are. When you choose to work on that brand and make it palatable and, more importantly, marketable to others, that's where the success comes in. You won't be good at it at first, and likely a year later, you'll revisit your first efforts and think they're pretty cringy. They might be, but you won't get any better at building your own brand to market to others if you don't start somewhere. After almost 55 episodes of this show, if you're here listening to this, you've come to this show looking for the answers that are going to set you apart from the hundreds, if not thousands, of other applicants for jobs in your area. If you are not willing to take the step to attempt to make yourself marketable, you're going to have an even harder time finding a position. If you've been wondering what the secret sauce is that makes this show get people jobs that pay up to 6 figures, this is it. Marketing yourself and putting yourself out there as more than generic worker 24601. Email me if you get that reference, by the way. That is the key. If you want to create and are serious about doing so, I invite you to reach out to me. Drop me an email, a LinkedIn message, tweet, Insta DM, whatever it is. If you're serious about doing this, I want to give you a hand. When you begin creating, you make yourself more attractive to companies, and that makes them want to hire you. Anything worth doing is rarely easy. So I would invite you to cast off the thoughts of ease in this job search. This is one of the most important fights of your life. The fight to empower yourself to feel valued. And the only person who can win that fight is you. As we draw this episode to a close, remember, you are worth more than your work. Your value to society is not dictated by what you do to pay your bills. Job hunting is difficult, no matter your age, gender, location, or background, and it's both acceptable and to your benefit to seek every bit of help in conquering this challenge. For more from Recruiting Hell, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player or our YouTube channel, and don't forget to leave a review of the show if your podcast platform allows it. It's tremendously helpful. Connect with Rob via LinkedIn. Be sure to visit recruiting-hell.com to subscribe to our newsletter, and of course follow the show all across social media. Just look for the orange and blue flame logo. Recruiting Hell is a production of Westport Studios and is proudly made in Wisconsin. Lastly, be sure to visit and support our sponsors. They make it possible to do this show and make it better every single week. Remember, your job hunt is a marathon, not a sprint, and Recruiting Hell will be here to help you keep pace. Thanks for listening. Hey folks, it's Rob. Are you looking for a new opportunity in an up-and-coming industry that can help you get out of recruiting hell? CoinList, one of the fastest growing companies in the cryptocurrency space, is hiring. That's right, they not only support this show because they believe in it, but they believe that there's great talent to be found in this audience. Generous comp, great flexibility, incredible benefits, a strong culture, and a powerhouse team sound like a fit for you? Head to www.coinlist.co/jobs and apply today. That's www.coinlist.co/jobs. And be sure to let them know that you found them here on Recruiting Hell.